Hello. Hello, guys. Good afternoon. Come on, I know that this is the last talk. I know you're tired, but good afternoon. Perfect, perfect. Yeah, so this talk is about the future of web development. And here's my Twitter if you want to send any feedback, if you have any questions. I know some of you are shy, so just ping me on Twitter. I'll be more than happy to answer you. And you know, this year is the 25th anniversary of the web, and lots of things changed on the web during the time, right? So we had like this really nice websites like this one, Cosmology and Journal for the Advancement of Theoretical Science, and then the web started to evolve, and then you had like this really nice websites like this one, just a few ads, not too much information. Like we have like GIFs, we have like Flash came out, lots of transitions. You know, the web like evolved so much in the last years, and it's been just crazy. And you know, the title of this talk is the future of web development, right? And I know that this is it's probably the most generical title for a talk ever. The true title of this talk is actually How Not to Become a Zombie. This is the true title. And if you're developers like me, you probably feel this way. Like, first of all, you're working and you're doing JavaScript, and then people say, hey, you should use jQuery. jQuery is awesome. It's so easy to use. It's really, really awesome. And then you go to the jQuery website, you start to use it, and it feels really nice. It's so awesome. Lots of plugins. Cool. And then, like, other people say to you, hey, now you should use YY. YY is much better, has a much better architecture. Just go and use YY. YY is better. And then you go to the YY website, you start to learn it, and you see the documentation. You learn this new API, and it works fine. This is great. But then the web started to evolve. You need to like organize your application in probably an MVC structuring. And then people say, hey, you should use Backbone now. And then you go to the Backbone website. You started to learn it, and bam, now you're using Backbone. No, no, no. Now you should use React. React is much better than Backbone, because React is made by Facebook, and they have this virtual DOM thing, so it's really powerful, really nice. Use React. No, 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 no. Use AngularJS. AngularJS is the most exciting thing in the world. It's made by Google, and Google is awesome, right? So just go and use AngularJS. So this is really weird, you know. I keep like asking myself, are we really evolving? Like, are we just like using other frameworks? Or like we need to make better experiences for our audiences. And it's just crazy. I know that you feel in the same way. We are like using a framework and replacing into another thing just for the sake of using a new technology. We're not delivering new experiences to our users. Just the same thing with another framework in the back. And this is like, I cannot understand those kinds of things, you know? Like, it's just like, you know when you see, like, you know when you see something and you don't understand what's happening, and then you're like there's a new framework, and you no, 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 and there's a new framework, and no, no, there's a new, like, no, it's so, I can't understand how those things happen in the web, only on the web. And my goal of this talk is that you leave like this, like, oh my God, there's so many things going on the web, it's so crazy. Like, this is just insane. And like, if we think about like the three pillars of the web, we have HTML, we have CSS, and we have JavaScript. We have many different backend languages, but those three languages in the client side, they are really important, and there's a lot of changes on those three languages. With HTML, for instance, people wanted to write HTML in a different way. So like some guys from the Ruby community, they created this project called Haml, where you can like define your HTML in a different way, and it compiles to HTML. Jade in the Node.js world, it's pretty much the same. They didn't want to use like angle brackets, so you're writing your JavaScript, your HTML code like you're writing like JavaScript, and then you compile to HTML. So there's all those crazy initiatives, all those crazy templates to use on the client side, and this is great. But then HTML5 came. You know, when HTML5 came, everything changed. Like, I don't think there is a moment in the history where just a language had so much marketing behind of it. Like, HTML5 was the most exciting thing possible, and there are so many new APIs. It's the Flash killer. It's the best thing. Now it's going to save the web. It's the superhero of the web. And it's probably true. There's a lot of crazy things you can do with HTML5. My first HTML5 experiment was this. It's called, let me close this crazy website first. It's called Worms. And it's really crazy. You can like generate all those crazy particles, and you can increase the speed, you can decrease. You can also upload an image like the Liferay logo. This is probably a good one for now. And you can upload this logo, and you can like change the colors. So HTML5 gives all this power to you. You can create really like unusual stuff and like really fast. There's a lot of process going on here, and you can create those crazy things with HTML5. So why not loving it, right? HTML5 is so awesome. And same with CSS. There's so many new things going on with CSS. People realized that they could make CSS better by creating CSS preprocessors. So you probably heard about last, where you can define functions, you can define variables in your CSS. So if you don't want to like repeat the same code of the color, you can use a variable to store it. Oh, this is really awesome. There's a lot of other CSS preprocessors like Stylus for Node.js also, and Sass, the one we use in Liferay, where you can like really make CSS better and write better CSS, more modular and everything. But with CSS3, there are so many things. Like now you can do transitions, you can do animations. There's so many new technologies that were brought to the web platform and empower us to make crazy things. Another really useful experiment that we did was this one called Old Radio. And this radio it's just a radio and it plays, it's nice. But the nice thing about it is that everything constructed here is just code. There's not a single image in this radio. Everything is just CSS. And it's crazy to think that you can do this mirror effect with CSS, all these lightning effects with CSS, just code. And you can actually play it. Wow! I feel good. You can like change the station. I knew that I would. So crazy. Like CSS, HTML5, all those things, they're so much powerful. It's so crazy how you can create amazing stuff with those technologies. And not only with HTML5, not only with CSS3, but also in the JavaScript world, and probably this one is the most important one, right? Because the other ones are just like markup languages. They're not really programming languages, and JavaScript is. And many people hated JavaScript in the past. They said, hey, JavaScript is the worst invention ever. You shouldn't be using JavaScript. And you know, JavaScript is just a toy language. Why you should care about JavaScript? Maybe like 10 years ago, when you say, hey, I like doing JavaScript, people just like, get out of here. Like, you're not good enough. And now everything changed, right? Lots of people tried to fix JavaScript. So Google, for example, they have this project called Dart, where you can create your JavaScript in a really different way, really different like language, and then you compile it, and then you can have JavaScript in the end. TypeScript initiative from Microsoft is pretty much the same thing. And CoffeeScript, another one that it's been used on Ruby on Rails for a while, where you write JavaScript in this different way, and it compiles to JavaScript in the end. So there are many people trying to fix JavaScript, which is interesting. But the most interesting thing is that now JavaScript is the coolest kid in the block. You know, like suddenly it was your ugly friend that you don't care about, and now it's like, oh, I want to be like that guy. It's so nice to be like him. And I don't know, like the web changed so much that those kinds of things happened. And there are many reasons why those things happened. One of those is Node.js, for instance. Node.js, you can run JavaScript in the back end. You have just one language running both on the client side and the back end side. So, wow, this is awesome. The ECMAScript 6, which is the base of the JavaScript language, has been evolved like really, like there's lots of evolutions going on that side, which makes the language much more powerful than it was in the past. But probably the biggest reason why JavaScript got so better in the last years was because of the JavaScript engines. V8 from Google Chrome, it's just insane how they improve the performance of JavaScript. And because of all those improvements, you can do crazy stuff. There's this tracking.js project created by Eduardo back there in Brazil. And this project, you can detect colors, you can detect faces on images and videos, and you can make crazy computer vision things for the web. This one really depends on the light, so let's hope it works. So in this example, we can detect a face of a person and then interact in a 3D environment using WebGL. So there's no plugins at all. There's no crazy stuff. It's just JavaScript. And it's insane to think that this is just JavaScript. You would never thought that this could be happening on the web like 5, 10 years ago. But how Liferay fits into this whole new world? There's so many things going on, so many new frameworks, so many new technologies on the client side. How can we fit into this new environment, into this new world? What about projects like Alloy UI? We have been using Alloy UI in Liferay for a while. What are the kind of evolutions that we can make in that project? One of them is a really nice project that Ilian and Chema showed earlier on. That was the best talk, the Alloy editor. So check this out. It's really nice. You can make like editing in your website like much more easier than in the past. And there are many evolutions and many things changing on that project right now. YY recently announced that they are going to stop the development of YUI, which was the framework that all of our Alloy UI components were built on top of. And that was a big thing for us. And we thought about it. We just released the last version of Alloy UI using YUI. It's Alloy UI 3. And now we are going to totally focus on a new version of Alloy UI using jQuery. And there were many people asking for jQuery, and like for years the clients asking, hey, I want to use jQuery, I want to use jQuery. So we are finally giving this to our clients, to our customers, to our developers. And if you were here last year, you already know that jQuery is the Justin Bieber of the web. So there was no reason to not make this move, because Justin Bieber is so nice. Yeah, it's crazy. So if you want more information about all those things that are changing on Alloy UI, there's this really nice blog post by Nate Kavanagh. Another improvement was around single-page applications. So we noticed that were a lot of companies building their websites in a different way. They were reconstructing the things that the browser usually handles it. Instead, they were doing it all on the client side. So we noticed this technique, this way of building websites, and we tried to implement that on Liferay. We came up with this project called Senna.js. It's available on GitHub. And the way Zeno was so impressive, the difference of performance that this project made, that we have this video to show how Senna improved Liferay performance. So this was before Senna. It's a really slow connection. So you're going to click on a link, and then you're starting to load all the resources of the next page. You get the blank page because that's how browsers work. And then you have here the counter, okay, 15 seconds. I still have images to load. It's really slow connection. So it took around 24 seconds. Then we activated Senna.js in an even slower connection. So we clicked on the link, and then we then refreshed the page, and it was just 6 seconds. So this is going to be available on Liferay 7, and it's just insane how much faster it's going to be. And we made this Senna.js project in a different way of everything we have built in the past. We have been doing lots of experiments and lots of experience with those tiny little modules, those JavaScript modules like tracking.js, and we try to learn how to make these open source projects in this new way. So Senna.js, for instance, if you go to the GitHub right now and you see the stars of the project, it's 935. And But why Zeno is not built like under Liferay? You know, we could take this decision, like just put it on inside of LUI like we made in the first place. Why not just put inside of the Liferay portal repo and make people using it? We made this decision pretty much because if you think about all the developers we have in the world, it's like this, right? And then we can segment those developers by the language that they know. So you have the developers that knows Java, you have all the developers that knows Ruby, you have all the developers that knows Python, and so on. So we could put inside of Liferay, but then you like hit just this tiny, and not that it's tiny, there's a lot of people that know Java, but what if we just like give this project to everybody? It's just a JavaScript library, it doesn't depend on the backend. So we put this project like outside of Liferay and we launched it. You know, Liferay portal has 10 years, and like if you see the stars, it has 600. And Zeno.js is like just 1 month project and it's like 900. How is that, you know? I know that we don't have a Zeno.js conference, but it's really interesting to see how we can target other markets and other developers, and then those developers with many different experiences, they contribute back to the project, and then we can leverage this to Liferay. So we get much more contributions. So this is a really nice thing. So we have done all those things, you know. We made a lot of improvements, and we're still doing LUI. Same thing with single-page applications and also with web components. Web components, it's a new set of specifications. It's not a new framework. It's not something that a company is driving. It's a new set of W3C specifications. It's pretty much 3 different ones. One is custom elements. We have HTML imports, and you have Shadow DOM. And what this enables us is to create our own HTML elements. So you can get really crazy and create an element like this, Liferay DEVCON. So like you can turn on the lights, sorry. So you can go like and see the Liferay DEVCON element in a page, and if you inspect it, you'll see that it's just like a doc type, okay, no big deal, HTML head, body, and then a Liferay DEVCON tag. I don't know what the text does. You know, it's just a tag in my page, but you can encapsulate different like functionalities and different stuff using this web components technology, which is a web platform thing. And what this tag should do is interact with the lights. So maybe if we turn off the lights, we can see this tag doing crazy stuff. If we turn on the lights again, and I'm not doing anything, it's just the web working. It's just crazy. It's just crazy to think that nowadays we can like control how a web app interacts with the light of the environment. And if we put this inside of web components, you can create one tag to do all of this. So it's just crazy how the web is getting. You know, there's a lot of companies that believe that web components is the future of the web. I wish I could give a whole talk about this, but we don't have time. But basically, there are 2 main projects doing web components nowadays. We have Xtags from Mozilla, and we have Polymer from Google. Those are the most famous frameworks built on top of web components. It's still a pretty new technology. Like, there's not so many browsers supporting. It's pretty new. But we realized that we could drive this new evolution. So we realized that, hey, people will want to share the web components. So we created this customelements.io website last year. It's a gallery for web components, and it's been just crazy. There's more than 600 components, 2,000 page views from all over the world, people submitting components like every day, and it's just insane, you know. The Xtags project, they recommend you to go to customelements.io to get our components. And the Polymer project from Google, they say, hey, you should go to customelements.io to find elements built by other people. So this is a project that is not related to the Liferay portal directly, if you think about, but we have constructed it, and we have been working with all those companies to improve this environment. In the end, we created this webcomponents.org initiative, which is pretty much Opera, Mozilla, Google, and Liferay. So we are trying to drive this new spec and help this technology evolve. And we think that if we do that, we can bring all of this back to Liferay portal and make it much, much easier for you guys to use. And like we have been doing all those different things, like we have been doing like all of those different initiatives. But we always keep asking ourselves, how long does it take to put a Liferay portal in production? How can we make it easier and faster to put the Liferay portal in production? Like from the moment that you get the bundle and you download, from the moment that you push and you deploy to your server. How long does it take? Does it take a week? Does it take like 5 days? Does it take like a month? How long does it take? You know, there's so many different initiatives nowadays, like Startup Weekend, where you go to this place for just 48 hours, 54 hours, and you work on a new project, and then boom, in just like 2 days you have like a whole new project on the web, online. So we noticed this movement, and we noticed that there's a lot of new technologies going on, and we wanted to make it like faster and more nice to develop using Liferay. That was the question that Ray and Eduardo had last year on their engineering retreat. They were asking themselves, how can we make this better? I want to use Liferay on my personal projects. Like I have been working with Liferay for 5 years, 10 years, building things for enterprise developers, for enterprise clients. But how come I cannot use on my personal project, like my personal website? There's so many nice things that Liferay provides that we could use on our own applications. So they came up with this idea, the standalone apps idea. It's a concept that brings lots of new technology and lots of new features to the product. And this is gonna be all available for Liferay 7. So we have the dynamic storage, which is a new layer to help you out. Nowadays, if you have an entity like calendar, for example, and you want to make an edit on this calendar entity, let's say you want to create a new column on this entity, you go to the service.xml, you map your new entity, and then you go to the service util, you need to update it manually, and then you deploy the service, and then you start Tomcat, and you need to wait for the server to go up. And then if you have another change to make, then you need to do all those steps again. So we wanted to provide like a better workflow for you. And we think that with RESTful APIs, we can probably make this much, much faster. Nowadays, we have the JSON web services, right? And if you want to call a method on it, it's pretty nice. You have all the different parameters that you can use, and then you call this URL. It's like calling a method using a URL. And this is really, really powerful. But we wanted to make it as easier as calling an URL, like, okay, I want a calendar, and this is the calendar name. Just put it on the URL, and then I want to grab the event with this ID, and then it returns the result for you. So it's much more human, you know, you can consume much easier way. You don't need to remember all the parameters, which ones are required and which ones are not. So this is really nice. Another big part of it is the real-time real-time applications that we can make. Let's say you have a chat app, and you have like 2 different clients, and you want to communicate between them. You can easily like use this real-time layer to detect when something happened and then interact with the page. Because nowadays, like we have our phones, we're so used to receive the new updates on our phones and not just going to the website, hit refresh. This is not the way we handle anymore. We want, like, when things are happening, we want to see it right away. And it can be simple as like when someone's typing, or like a new interaction, a new comment on a blog post, all those different things. The routing system is also a really big important part. In Liferay, we have these really big URLs. And you know, those URLs are really nice, actually, because you can you can define in the URL exactly what you want to render in your page. But it's not so human. Again, we want to bring like a better experience for our developers. What if we have just like a routes.txt file where you can define exactly where is going to be the HTTP method that you want, exactly the path that you want to get, and the method from a certain controller that you want to execute. So this is going to be like much nicer, much easier to work with if you want. if you keep using the JSON Web Services, that's no problem. It's still really nice. These are just different approaches that you can use. We want to provide tools to generate apps for multi-devices. And this is much more than just a responsive website. We want to build your app in HTML and JavaScript and be able to deploy it to Firefox OS, to Chrome OS, and then have the same interactions in a really nice way to use them. And of course, the developer workflow. There are so many tools going on right now. You have Gradle that you can just run it, and you can run everything you want inside of Gradle. You can even run gulp tasks inside of Gradle and build our fonts or style sheets or JavaScript. And we want to provide you tools like automated testing and test coverage for just from the beginning, and not just implementing those stuff when the project is gonna end. So we want to give you all of this since the beginning and make it really easier to use. And of course, we want to enable you to use any framework you want. And this is a really important part. For us, it would be really easy to just say, okay, Liferay 7, let's use AngularJS. Because AngularJS is the most famous project right now. So this is a really simple decision for us. It's really simple in the developer way. It's okay, let's bundle this new framework. But AngularJS is the framework that everybody's talking this year. Last year was Backbone, and the other year was Ember. We, at Liferay, we try to make products that will last 10 years, 5 years. So we want to make it simple, and it's really hard to make it in a way that it doesn't break for the future. We are always doing that because there's so many new things going on the client side that it's really, really hard to evolve without breaking. But what we want to do is hey, here's a really nice layer that you can work with, and if you want to choose Angular, go for it. If you want to choose Ember, if you want to choose any framework, the next big framework tomorrow, you can choose and go ahead. You have all these RESTful APIs, you have all this real-time application for you, and it's really nice, right? And my first web development conference a couple years ago, I was with this really this friend of mine. He really knew PHP, and he was just insane with PHP. And this guy, we went to this conference, and Rasmus Lerdoff, the creator of PHP, was there. And at some point of the conference, my friend asked Rasmus, hey, Rasmus, I know that everybody's using Django and Python nowadays, so should I migrate and should I stop working with PHP and work with Python instead, because everybody says that Python's better? And the answer that Rasmus gave was, geeks love to fight. And this happens all the time. AngularJS is better than Backbone. WordPress is better than Liferay. Or iOS is better than Android. So we are always fighting and always saying that a certain technology is better than the other. And this is not true. Those things change so much. And it's really hard to keep working with all those new technologies. So at Liferay, we truly believe that the success of an application, and it doesn't matter if it's just an enterprise application or any kind, it doesn't really depend on the tool that you're using, but how this tool is applied. So this is a really important thing for us. We want to provide all the tools that makes your life much, much easier, really fast, the development workflow and everything. But how you use those tools, this is the main difference. What we want to do with standalone applications is empower you guys. Our goal is to empower developers like you to be able to create Liferay projects in a weekend. Really, really fast, create your own stuff, not the things that you build for our clients. We want this to be really, really nice. We think that in the end, we maybe attract new industries, probably agencies that they want to build projects really fast, small businesses and startups, why not? So Liferay is really powerful and it's really scalable. Why not attracting those new industries to our business also? And we want to attract new developers. And we want people that think differently and bring new things to our environment. And this is really nice, growing this community that is already really huge. And for us, this is a really hard thing to do. Because we have been doing Java for 10 years and it's been working really awesome. We are in this comfort zone. We're still developing lots of new stuff. We are every single year pushing the technology much forward. But we want to go where the magic happens. And there's a lot of magic going on out there nowadays. There's so many new technologies. The web is evolving so much fast that we want to see that area. We want to go there and grab everything that is really valuable, everything that is not just a trend technology that is going to die tomorrow. We want to get there and take it back from you and say, hey guys, here's all the tools you need to create amazing applications and build amazing stuff using Liferay. So that's it. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to be here one more year. Thank you.